Welcome to the UpStreamLife.com. I'm your founder and editor, Vishal Krishna. As usual, I bring you wonderful entrepreneurs. I like talking about the EV industry. I've been talking about it for 8 years and they've come a long way. And today's entrepreneur is really cutting it. He's been pushing boundaries. I'm talking about Namit Jain of Zen Mobility. And they are going to tell you why you have to get in and join in on their movement of B2B vehicles. So what are we going to be talking about, Namit?
So we're going to be talking about EVs, electric vehicles, sustainability, environment, and the impact on the social needs.
I think you're right. It's all about improving lives, sustainability, and living better lives with the EVs that last longer. By the way, we should talk about our sponsors. My sponsors are Finverse. It's all about money, guys. You have to know how to run money to run your businesses. So if you're a guitarist, you need to know how to run a business. So go download Finverse. You can be a BCom student. You want to reskill, download Finverse, okay? But before that, enjoy this interview with Namit and tell me what you think about that company. And please like and share. And let me know 1,000 more questions so that I can bother him again. Thank you, Namit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go enjoy the interview. Namit, how are you?
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
You know, I've been a fan of you for the last 3-4 months because I've heard so much about the past that you come from and why you're building Zen Mobility. You know, a lot of exuberance in that EV market out there. First, tell our audience, what is Zen Mobility, quickly? And it's an abbreviation. I didn't find out till you told me when we had coffee. So tell us about Zen Mobility.
So Zen Mobility is basically an electric vehicle manufacturer. We build purpose-built solutions for last mile delivery and logistics for mainly the B2B space.
Okay, but what is Zen?
Zen stands for Zero Emission New Mobility. And that's what the abbreviation is.
How did you chance upon the name?
Funny story, we were actually in Japan 4 years back, maybe, when we were just thinking of the idea of Zen, of the company. At the time, it was not called Zen. And since the Japanese term Zen is quite relevant, so that's how we came about the name, and then we thought of the abbreviation.
And it stuck with you. It's a great name, no? It's got a Japanese tone to it, but because Zen is Japanese.
Yeah.
But then zero emission makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
So what do you when I look at the EV ecosystem in India, it's so many things, so many players, B2B and B2C. You're in the B2B space, but let's get into it by first covering the legacy that you come from, and that's very important to encompass why you're a serious player in this business, because there's so many out there, and sometimes you think it's like the mobile phone revolution, right? There were so many operators who came in. There were so many phone manufacturers who came in, but then very few of them survived. Same thing is happening in the EV space.
Right.
Your legacy in the automotive industry has to be commended. Do you want to talk about that before we get into Zen?
Sure. So, our group company NTF has been there for the past 4 decades in the industry, and we've been manufacturing for the auto companies, mainly plastics and composites. So we have a lot of experience when it comes to manufacturing, operations, automotive industry, technology, design, and these things are what help us at Zen to build unique products.
Was that a natural extension for you to get into Zen? Because as business families meet, right, and you think about the next generation of products, you could have stuck with the automotive world in say, you've been obviously serving the ICE engine world.
Yeah.
But the business you're in actually goes into even EVs, right? Because you can make frames, right? So how did the EV thing come about?
So it was an interesting story because it relates to my background. I did my engineering in Germany, was there for about 6 years, and spent a lot of time in automotive engineering, mechanical engineering. And I did a project in the EV space in my master thesis project. So that's where I sort of started to have a interest in this field. And when I came back after my studies, joined the business, that is when we started to think about what's next. You know, of course, we're into manufacturing. We will be scaling up, growing the business. But if we want to get into this new space, which was emerging at the time, which is EVs, then how do we get into it and what do we do exactly? That's when I used my experience at my university, and sort of that helped to bring about the idea of Zen.
Okay, interesting. You said dissertation and in EVs. You chose Germany, went there to study, of course. Why choose an EV industry? Was there a revolution happening in Germany at the time?
Yes. So in my project itself, we built an EV for a company at the time.
This was what, in 2015?
This was in 2018.
2018, okay.
Yeah, 2017, 18.
Okay.
And that time, there was no talk about EVs except Tesla. Tesla was the only one which was there. So that really initiated that thought that if that can happen in Germany, then why not in India? And in India, a couple of startups had come up at the time, but nothing major. So we thought it's a good area to get into.
So you came in, you had to meet. I mean, how does a legacy family work? A business family? Do you have to sit and convince the board? Is there a family constitution where you sit down and say, look, this is the bet I want to take on, and it's almost like a startup, but you're selling it to family, because you need the backup of family. How did that happen? How did your family choose this industry?
So fortunately, in our family, very straightforward. 3 of us, my brother and my father. So I think it happened very organically. So all of us had this thought that we want to enter into a new space, new technology, and we're all very, very open-minded. I have a lot of support from them as well when it comes to trying new things. And that's when we jointly decided that yes, let's get into it. At the time, we didn't know whether it will become a business. It was just an R&D project to start with. And slowly it emerged and evolved into more of a venture, into sort of like a startup. And then now we are, of course,
you're a startup. In fact, I'll get there. Why did you call it that? You did some R&D and you didn't go full on into it. Did you do some testing before you launched it as a startup?
Yes, so we first wanted to understand which space we can enter in the EV industry. So in the EV industry, we can manufacture vehicles, we can manufacture components like we do at NTF. But we wanted to understand where should we go into. It could also be charging infra, energy, any area. So we were very open at the time. But we really identified this last mile delivery space as a booming and sort of untapped space at the time, which we thought is a good niche to get into.
And the last mile delivery obviously includes a lot of two-wheelers. It includes three-wheelers of different variants, different capacities. Correct? Mostly sub 1 ton, especially the three-wheelers. And you thought you got it. Obviously, the advantage is not in the battery chemistry; it's in the drivetrain. You focus on the drivetrain, the design. Correct?
Right. So our focus has always been to build a purpose-built vehicle for last mile delivery. So typically a lot of vehicles are there in the 3-wheeler, 4-wheeler space, which are retrofits. But typically what happens in a retrofit is that an ICE engine or a passenger version of a vehicle is just transformed into an EV, which is not the right way to build EVs. EVs have to be designed from scratch. But the reason why people do it is to save on time and investment and cost and all those things. But if you actually spend time, it takes 2 to 3 years to build a new product. And that's the time we took to build it.
That's the R&D phase that you did.
That's the R&D phase that we had, and we're very fortunate to have had that much time. And the industry was also emerging at the time, so we had that much time to build the product right for the right fit. So now we've built a purpose-built vehicle for last mile deliveries, which solves a lot of the problems that
you use the word retrofitting. And again, I go back to the smartphone generation when everything was retrofitted and you just launched it as a brand of smartphone, but there was no original IP. So anything retrofitted doesn't have any IP, correct?
Yes, that's right. They can still apply for it, but yes, of course, it doesn't have any sanctity there.
So what's IP for you?
So IP is something that you develop in-house, which is something that does not exist in the world today, right? Of course, any IP, when you go to filing it, you have to put down background information.
Yes.
And background information includes all similar types of products that are there in the market, which you're trying to build. So that's the first, let's say, filter.
Yes.
So if you don't pass that, the first stage, you don't have an IP. And if you do, then you are, going towards something new.
Okay. And your IP is in designing the entire frame, the payload or capacity of the three-wheeler. What industries can it help? Let's put that in context. It's very difficult to paint that picture unless they visit your website and see the vehicle.
Right.
You want to paint that picture? What do you mean by IP in terms of design, the drivetrain?
So what we have built is actually a very interesting design. We call it a micropod, right? Which is somewhere between a 2-wheeler and a 3-wheeler. Typically today in the e-commerce industry, 80% of deliveries are done on bikes.
Yes.
Which is not only unsafe, but also not very human-centric, because the riders are carrying about 40 kgs on their back every day to deliver goods, and in all sorts of conditions, right? So this is the first problem that we wanted to solve. It's a social need, it's a responsible need that we have to solve. So that's what we started out with. We've made a very compact version of a vehicle, wherein the load can be locked inside the box can be customized, and the rider is comfortable. He has to ride 10 to 12 hours per day. So That was the first thought that we came up with. Then we worked on the technology aspect of it, which includes three aspects. One is the drivetrain itself, the other is the composite structure, lightweight technology, and the third is the cargo box.
Okay.
So in the drivetrain, it consists of the motor, the battery,
Yes.
controllers, all these electronics, which we have really built our own combination for it, because we wanted the specific performance to weight ratio to be maximum. And that's what we have tried to achieve.
And
through
that involves a proper powerful motor, powerful yet affordable motor.
Right.
And then you have the software and the battery chemistry
Right.
for that power.
Right.
And then on top of that, your IP would be, lightweighting of the whole vehicle.
Yeah.
Comfort for the driver.
Yeah.
And obviously the box itself is designed for these delivery people.
Right.
Or these driver entrepreneurs.
Correct? Right. So the structure itself, we've built it from carbon fiber composite technology, which is slowly upcoming in the auto industry. It's always been there in aerospace, in the other industries that are there. Carbon fiber basically is lightweight plus strong. So that helps the vehicle in terms of getting more range out of a smaller battery pack. So that's the advantage there. And when it comes to the cargo box, it really depends on the applications. So when you talk about deliveries, today it could be e-commerce delivery, food delivery, grocery delivery. It can be cold storage like dairy products, milk products, ice creams. Then it could also be medicine delivery. So for any purpose or application, we have a solution for them.
This is interesting. This is a great segue into the gig economy that you've been talking about. Is that real? Is that very real as a sustainable, business for a lot of these young people buying your vehicle maybe or leasing your vehicle? We'll talk about the business model in a bit. Is that something that you bet on as a business, that this is going to be a large set of people buying into EVs that are comfortable, that delivery is going to, is it here to stay?
Yeah, I think the market is huge. In fact, companies, the e-commerce giants today are running lakhs and lakhs of bikes today for deliveries.
Well, give us a number. How many bikes, how many EVs would be there?
So a typical e-commerce giant has about 2 lakh bikes on road every day. And if you consider 4-5 of these large companies, it's about 1 million bikes, right? So 1 million bikes on the road today doing deliveries in not the best way that's possible.
And
right?
This is a combination of ICE and EV?
This is typically ICE.
Okay.
EV might be like 5% of this.
Still 5%?
Yeah.
That's of 1 million, only 5%? Still?
Yeah, very, very small number. Because the problem still persists. Whether it's an EV or an ICE, the rider still has to carry the load on the back. So that does not change. That's what we're trying to solve. EV is only an added benefit there.
And these retrofitted vehicles don't offer the range, the durability, the comfort. That's what you're solving also, right?
So, typically in India, the industry has been very unorganized.
Yes,
a lot of companies have come in with imported kits, putting things together, supplying them. That's not how OEMs work. For us, we have experience working with OEMs. A typical life cycle of a product is 5 years in any large OEM. And what happens today is that any small, mechanic shop comes up with a two-wheeler in 6 months, which is basically not the right way to do it, because you are going to face issues when you go to market. So we have taken our own time with testing to make sure that our product is durable and reliable.
Do people appreciate it? The clients, when I look at your client, you already revealed one of your type of clients. It's probably e-commerce.
Yeah.
But there's others also. And they appreciate the fact that you work on all this IP of comfort, durability, power, and power to weight. The ratio is about right. Do they appreciate these things as cost saving and obviously for the long term for the driver himself, making a sustainable lifestyle?
Yes, definitely. I mean, in fact, what has happened is in the past 3 to 4 years, they've burnt their hands using vehicles which were not up to the mark, not the right quality. So they've actually now understood that not every vehicle out of any company or startup, let's say, is going to work well. And that is why they've become even more conscious in making that call of using EVs. And when they see our product, they understand the process, they understand the approach, which is very important. And that's when they sort of realize that, okay, this might be something different in the market today. And when they actually use it, we always give it to a customer to use for a couple of days without any issue. So that's when they actually realize that, okay, this is a product which actually works, is reliable, is sustainable, and could be a good solution for them.
So at this point of time, the industry is organized chaos. Everybody wants EVs, but there's so many players gunning for that mind share. How tough is it for you? I mean, do they appreciate that there is a legacy of automotive in your DNA? And then they give you a meeting? Or do they say, okay, for me, it's only cost saving today. Tell me the right price and we'll work with you.
Right. So I think if you spoke to me 2 years back, it was almost all about cost and about when the product will be ready, because typically the tech companies, the e-com portals and all these companies that are there, they have no patience.
Yes.
So they want products in 2 months, which typically takes 2 years. So that was a big challenge at the time. But now they've realized, and in a way it's good for us that they've realized that no, the products have to be good. They have to be developed well. And that is only when you can use them for longer.
Now, correct me. There's a common misconception that a good product means it's costly, right? It in fact is not costly, because there's so much cost saving you can do if you get a durable product. Correct?
Right. I think yeah, you're right. So good products does not have to mean it's going to be expensive. You can always save cost, but in fact, if the product is not expensive, then that people are using some sort of shortcuts to get there. Yeah.
But let's look at the product cost itself. I mean, you need not tell us the exact cost, but ballparks. What is the typical conversation like with a fleet operator of a e-commerce or a manufacturing company? Let's say, okay, we want to take 10,000 vehicles this month or this year, perhaps, and then they say, okay, we will bill it on the miles, and is your vehicle durable for those number of miles? Is that how they look at it?
So yeah, they look at it from number of deliveries point of view. So in a typical day, a vehicle should deliver, let's say, 50 packages according to a certain company, and our vehicle should be able to do that. If it does, then they talk about cost. And any e-com player does not want to own the asset.
Correct.
So they want to be asset light. That is very, very important today. So the business model has completely changed. Earlier, it was selling vehicles. Now it is actually providing the vehicle on a monthly rental. This can be through a leasing company, through an NBFC, through a bank. Because for us, we're a manufacturing company, so we will sell the vehicles.
The inventory is with the operator.
Yes,
not the brand that
exactly. The operator or the leasing company, they own the asset, and then we lease it or rent it to any company, let's say for 10,000 rupees per month. So for that, they're very, very.
So it's a lease model kind of a thing. So they also measure it in the number of miles you do.
Yes, they do. Yes, that is more dependent on the service and other aspects. But yes, number of miles per day.
When you said service, do EVs also need a lot of service? There is a definite guarantee to the lifestyle. The life of the battery.
Yeah.
But my question to you is the life of the battery more important than the durability of the vehicle itself? In terms of the structure, the structure is formidable. Anyway, the battery guarantee is what, 5 to 7 years?
So typically the battery guarantees are somewhere between 2 to 3 years. For us, we have a very special technology, so we're offering 6 to 7 years. So, but yeah, typically I would say the battery lasts longer than the vehicle today.
So that's the service element. That's where it comes in, that you have to maintain the cargo box and tinker with it or something.
Yeah, the structure of the vehicle itself should withstand the operation that is done on the vehicle, because this is a commercial vehicle. If you see the difference between a personal and commercial vehicle, personal vehicles we ride it for 2-3 hours per day.
Yes.
Rest of the time it's parked.
This is 12
commercial vehicles are run continuously for 10 to 12 hours.
So that's how
it's rough wear and tear.
Right? Yeah. So you got to keep running it to make money.
Right.
So there's wear and tear, and typically the wear and tear is what, 3 to 5 years? 2 years?
2 to 3 years, yeah, for commercial vehicles. Right. So it's very important to build the right.
You have to service the motors?
So motors not as much. I think motors are still lasting longer, but smaller parts like the suspensions, the brakes, the frame itself, any metal components that are there, all moving parts basically, those are the ones that have the most wear.
So you have to guarantee these things to them.
Yes.
Okay. And today, talk about typical client. How many clients do you have? And how happy are they with you? How many months are you into the contract with them?
Right. So, in the last 6 months, we've closed about 20-25 clients now, which we're in discussion with for multiple applications, multiple regions. So also India is huge. So the market is in Delhi, but also in Bangalore and all the regions, basically tier 1 and tier 2 cities. So the customers we have today, we know that there are 100x customers that we can of course tap, but we're going step by step. And typically any customer agreement is for 3 years to take our vehicles.
So that's long-term contracts.
Right.
The pricing is very important. You, as a startup, you could have said, let's get business immediately. Let's do 1-year deals. But you said no, right? You said, let's do 3-year deals.
Right. Because for any customer, they want reliability over the years. The asset has to, sweat over the years, not just for 1 year.
Yes.
So if they're buying something, they want to make sure for 3 years they have, they're saving the cost that we promised them.
Okay, because they're now outsourcing this to a fleet operator, how much of the decision making is left to them than the fleet operator?
I think it works in tandem. The larger e-com players, they make the first call that, okay, we have 50 deliveries that we have to do in, for example, this area in Bangalore. And for this particular supply chain, Zen Micropod fits well. And then they sort of advise their fleet operators to run this vehicle. That's how it works.
Okay. Yeah. And the billing happens to them or to the fleet operator?
Fleet operators.
Okay. It's interesting, but you can carry the brand names on your website saying, these are my clients. You can. They're okay.
Of course. Yeah. They're, in fact, every company today is looking towards sustainability. So anything that, is attached to carbon neutrality or net zero is something that's interesting.
Yeah, because Zen is the name, and do they understand it? Do they want sustainability at all?
Yes, I mean they. Let's say, of course they do. Yeah.
You advise them. You advise them on these things when you meet them. That look, it's not just about the number of miles we put in or the durability of the vehicle, but it's also sustainability. Do they care about it?
Yes, I think they do. Now they. I think every company today is conscious about it, and this slowly, especially the larger the company, the more mandates they have. The government has mandates. So government has said 30% should be electric by 2030 in commercial vehicles. That's a huge ask itself, right? So the companies have to work towards it.
So how much of it is education for you when you do a meeting? One is you have the challenge of saying, look, I come from the automotive world, so I understand, durability, driver comfort, IP. Don't go for a substandard product. You tell them all that. That's one thing. Second thing you have to convince them on is the pricing.
Yeah.
Right. And you do 3-year contracts. You mentioned that. And, then you have to talk about sustainability.
Yeah.
What's your typical sell like? What's your typical narrative?
Yeah, I think the most important thing for any company that is our customer is the operational and efficiency. So how much cost they're saving using our vehicle. Second is the environmental, of course, impact. And third is the rider safety, the rider comfort. Yes. So all three things are sort of tick boxes when you choose our vehicle. That's what we have to fix.
And then they appreciate a comparison with competition in terms of pricing?
Of course, always. And for us, it's very simple. We just tell them to use the product.
Okay.
And when they use the product, that's when they understand that the cost saving is actually there because we have more productivity. We deliver 3 times or 2 times more than a typical bike. So when you actually calculate the TCO, which is called total cost of ownership, which is the main point here, that's when they understand that our vehicle can do more deliveries per day and less cost because only one rider is needed instead of 2-3 riders which go on bikes. So manpower cost is saved.
The conversation is fascinating so far because we've talked about the industry and the business that you're in. Would you consider yourself to be a category creator here? Because it serves the common man's life. The Telawala maybe, right? And by the way, Telawala also means the pushcart guy, right? And you're helping people carry heavier payloads and run the asset longer, which means more money in their pockets. So you're a category creator there for that?
Yeah, I think so, and that's been the aim all along. That we don't want to get into the typical categories of a 2-wheeler or a 3-wheeler or a 4-wheeler.
So that's no differentiator.
Right. So this is why we've created a name that's also called Pod, because it's actually a compact vehicle which any sort of user can use.
So from books to television sets,
anything can fit into the box and can be delivered to your doorstep. So the idea is that we are an early mover in this space, and we've identified and created a niche which did not exist before.
It's interesting. So tomorrow, if an FMCG company says we're going to sign up a lot of EVs from you, you can custom build the box, the pod.
Right,
for them,
right.
For FMCG deliveries, right?
Yes.
Small items.
Yes, we can add a refrigerated box for cold storage, and we can add even, for example, garbage disposal boxes. It can be any sort of application. It can be medicine delivery. It can have shelves. So a lot of applications are possible.
Okay, to do these applications, right, you need a great team. Typically, you come from the automobile world since childhood. That has a different veneer to it. You need skilled workers. This is more knowledge, right? There are so many components that you piece together. Yes, there's a manufacturing piece, But there is also a piece of marketing the product, the narrative of the product. And how tough was it, or how easy was it for you to say that, okay, I'm going to create an entire new team for it? Am I right in saying that you created a new team for this?
Yes, of course. We need to build from scratch because this is a different product, different company, different mindset, different vision. And when that comes into play, you have to understand that you need young, passionate, let's say, engineers or marketing people to really, take the company forward.
Because this talent's not available, mind you. Remember 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when the e-commerce industry started in India, they hired from the retail and FMCG companies.
Yeah.
And just few years before that, the retail guys hired from the FMCG companies. They created the talent for the e-commerce. Are we in that stage for the EV side?
Yes, definitely. In fact, when we started hiring a couple of years back, we couldn't find people who know anything about EVs because nobody knew anything about EVs. Yeah, how do you find people,
especially the younger lot? They would have read about Tesla. But
right.
In your category, there wouldn't have been any experienced person.
Yeah, even the experienced people, in fact, they were experienced in ICE. They were not experienced in EV. So who do you find? So what we understood was that we have to look at less about the knowledge they have in the EV space, but more about how much they're willing to learn. Because everything is a learning curve. So anyone we hire today will have to learn and develop their knowledge in this field. Yeah.
Okay, category creation is very important, and therefore the team marketing this is very important. Again, appreciating the fact that you're a B2B company, right, and you didn't do B2C. How do you tell these companies that you're a category creator? Do they agree with the fact that yes, by design you say that, look, I can customize it for you? Does that ring a bell for them?
Yeah, I think the usability of the vehicle, the way that we have sort of designed it, in the sense that we can fit a certain number of packages which a bike cannot do or a three-wheeler cannot do. It can go through lanes very quickly. It's a very compact vehicle. Maneuvering is easy. So they actually realize it slowly that, yeah, maybe this kind of vehicle does not exist, and maybe it is a new category, which everyone, in the beginning, they're a bit resistant to try it. Yes. But then when they do, they actually understand that maybe this is the solution for all their problems today.
Okay. Today you have direct sell. Do you also do selling through your own dealer?
We are exploring that as well. Of course, B2B can be sold directly, but it always helps to have dealers because we can only do so much, in such a large market like India. So we can pick some regions where we can directly sell and service, but we will need dealers in specific regions.
Is that because of the agri economy that India is? You want to get into that segment?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
That works for you. Let's talk about different segments. We talked manufacturing, we talked e-commerce. Does agri make sense?
It does. In fact, agri makes sense. A lot of other, like pharma industry, makes sense. Within campus, within large industrial areas, that's a great application for our product. Also, very interesting is army bases. So they can use our vehicles for within the campus usage. So a lot of applications for the product.
This is interesting. So when you as a leader think through what are the low-hanging fruits in terms of the applications, and what is the long term in terms of these applications?
So I think the low-hanging is right now it's e-com, grocery, food, cold storage. These are areas where there is a requirement immediately to solve problems because there are no vehicles available in the market for delivery. There are two-wheelers which can't carry enough load. There are three-wheelers which are over-spec, over-expensive. So they really need a product today. So these are the low-hanging fruits. But of course, in the future, we can tap so many other areas which we can't even think about today.
I asked you this question earlier, that is the gig economy here to stay, and you said it is. What's going to happen now, because it looks so fragmented? The EV industry is fragmented, but it has to get organized within the chaos. How do you see that this is going to be the real job profile for many people in the years to come, and we cannot escape it, and somebody has to create a sustainable life for them?
I think since deliveries have started, especially after COVID, the gig economy has really emerged, and everything that we buy today is mainly online, especially the younger generation. So everything has to be delivered to your doorstep. Somebody has to do it, and it has to be some person who's in the gig economy that will deliver it to your doorstep. So this becomes increasingly important. This industry has been growing for the past 3-4 years, but it will grow exponentially in the next 5 to 10 years. And more people will be required, and then retention of these people is an even bigger task. So in order to actually keep them, you have to give them the right conditions to work in.
Yeah,
that's what a vehicle.
I think that's a good narrative as well. So if there are so many of these people. You want them to. I'm glad you raised that point. It's so important. So these are kids coming in, say, typically degree holders, or they finish their 12th standard and come into this, right? What happens is they want to have a lifestyle till 30 with this, and maybe even continue with it. Maybe become fleet operators themselves or something.
Right.
But at this point of time, we're not there yet, right? We're not thinking about that. We're just saying, let the number of drivers come in because it's a pool. They need quick jobs. That can change.
Definitely, and that should change because right now let's say they're in their young age where they can do these deliveries every day, but eventually they will realize that they maybe cannot do it physically, and that's when they can think about being an entrepreneur themselves, open a small logistics operations service, because they have so much experience in this industry, and with the amount of people we have, the amount of regions we have, we need more and more entrepreneurs, smaller entrepreneurs, let's say, who can help us.
So it's here to stay.
Right.
And I think at some point of time, I would look forward to papers from your side saying how this gig economy is shaping up as a company. And obviously the sustainability story is very good. Now, role of government in all these things. Yes, they want EVs to be the main, mobility set for the years to come. FAME has a few subsidies. They took away a few subsidies for two-wheelers.
Yeah.
Right. How's the subsidy thing playing out? Or how's the policy thing playing out? For me, policy should be about sustainability. That we ensuring that the environment's safe. It's good for the future of our children. But what's policy at today?
Yeah, I think government has done a lot in the last 4-5 years. They've pushed so much for electric, more than any other nation in the world. Actually, India's the fastest growing nation when it comes to EVs, to sustainability, after China. And
more so on the B2B side, right?
Yeah,
a lot of adoption on
right.
the
B2B side primarily, also B2C. They're offering subsidies to a lot of the OEMs, to a lot of the users. So it has been there, but of course, there is more that can be done.
Okay.
And what has happened is that some categories have been created in the past. For example, a simple two-wheeler or a three-wheeler category, which gets a particular subsidy, which is fair. But for people like us who've created new niche categories, we need to, sort of relook at the policy and make it more generic towards, all sorts of vehicles that are available in the market. Yeah.
So if you have to give a couple of messages to people watching from the policy side of it, what are your asks?
Yeah, I think to identify where is the real problem and how the subsidy should be given to the companies, because we've also, heard that a lot of companies have been taking subsidies, maybe misusing them. So what needs to be done is the right way that the subsidy or the policy should be, given to the customers or to the OEMs, and be open-minded to new products coming out in the market, and let's say quick to initiate new policies. Yeah.
Most of it is, around taxes also, right? The component side, because there's a lot of imports, but you're also a made in India product.
Yeah.
So it's the GST that's where the subsidies should come in as well, right? Sometimes the cost of the product, because the components are being charged, the cost of the product goes up. Is that something that you asked them to focus on also?
Yeah, so from us, the product is 100% built in India.
Yes.
So we're promoting Make in India. All the components have been, sourced locally. So I think that should have a benefit when it comes to getting the subsidies. You're right, GST, the taxation should be even better. It's already there. They're still trying to do it, but it can be even better.
Can there be something done for the B2B industry where there are some tax stops for the driver entrepreneurs? Does that help at all?
Yeah, I think that could be that's a great idea. I think that could be a good way to start. Because at the end of the day, the user has to pay for it, not the larger company or a company like us. So if they get some relief, then why not? I mean, that will be the great.
Okay, great. But you're saying India has gone way out to help the EV industry come in. Are we on the target of having 30% of EVs on the road by 2030?
I think it depends on two aspects.
Let's talk on the B2B side.
Yeah, B2B side. So I think one is that there should be enough manufacturers to actually make good products. Second is the adoption.
The key is good products, not retrofitting again.
Right. Good products. Yeah, good products which are built for purpose, built for EVs, and not retrofitted here and there. So I think if that comes along with the adoption, so people need to be educated enough to switch to EVs. Even today, I mean, the gig economy itself, we need to educate them about EVs. A lot of them are educated, they understand the benefits, but a lot of them don't. So we need to educate them so that adoption increases. So as both these things sort of converge, we can of course achieve that goal.
Financing of these vehicles, right? I mean, we talk about banks and NBFCs. Should there be a policy there to talking about my experience with these cab operator companies? The typical ownership is 3 to 5 years, and people just leave the asset and default.
Yeah,
that shouldn't happen. That's why my earlier question on making this a sustainable business for these fleet operators or driver owners. And is that a function of taxation? Is that a function of making sure that they run their asset for 12 hours to 15 hours and then given, I wouldn't say fair compensation, but something that they can run their lives better? Are these things that we grapple with all the time?
Yeah, I think so. But I think as long as the products are sort of doing the job and are reliable and sustainable in the sense that you can use them for so long, I think that should
I got what you mean. You're saying as long as the costs are, the service costs are lower.
Yes,
that makes a lot of sense. And that's more money in your pocket as a driver. That's
the maintenance is a big issue. Downtime is one of the major challenges today. So as long as downtime is reduced and is zero, they're very happy.
Okay, great. The automotive industry, you were saying that is automotive industry is always trying to play catch up, or sometimes it's like it's once put its leg on the other side saying, okay, we'll do EV, but they're not doing it completely. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think the automotive industry in general has spent so much time and a lot of investments in the ICE technology, ICE engine technology, that for them to shift to electric very quickly is very difficult. So that has been the challenge in the past 4-5 years, what we've seen in the market. But I think now they are realizing the value of EVs is much more, and they're realizing that maybe even if it's not the final solution in the world, it is an intermediate solution. It is there to stay for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And if they want to survive and sort of be relevant, they have to
move into this.
Abide by it.
But technology change is so rapid, Namit, nowadays, right? Like you said, the ICE industry lasted 100 years, and it's going down. But when you talk about EVs lasting 50 years, do you see constant changes in technology now? Are we living in that type of an era?
I think yes, disruption is something that's very relevant today, and technologies are changing so quickly. Innovations are having rapidly today, exponentially in fact. And battery technology will change. So battery technology changed in the last 3 years, 4 years itself. So in the coming years, there will be a transition from, let's say, lithium ion to sodium ion or whatever other chemistry that's available. It can even go to, let's say, fuel cells, hydrogen fuel cells. So what's very important today as a company like us, an EV maker, is to be very flexible and very agile with whatever technology comes. And we need to be agnostic of that and use whatever the best available technology is there today.
So as an entrepreneur, do you keep looking at these disruptions?
Definitely, and in fact, we're already working on the advanced technologies that are coming up, because we know today that there are some energy solutions that might be even better than, let's say, a lithium-ion battery. So we are looking at that. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on energy management? Everybody talks battery management. We also have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is infrastructure, charging infrastructure.
Right.
How do you solve that today? Yours is not swap, right?
It's a standard charging. I think it's more or less like the chicken and egg story. What comes first, the vehicles or the charging infrastructure? And the last 2-3 years, both of them have sort of emerged together, which is the right way. Charging infra has to come in the B2B space, though it's more of just charging overnight in a warehouse of a large e-com player. So there is not too much of a need for charging. And that's the benefit of the B2B space, because B2C is a much more complex problem and will be solved eventually. But in B2B, it's quite straightforward.
Okay, and I think it's new revenues for the state governments, all the electricity supply companies, right? They should also be participating in these, right?
Right. So larger energy companies and even the government electricity board, they're very interested, and they're sort of looking for new solutions every day, new innovations in this area. Yeah.
What region would be the fastest in terms of EV adoption in the B2B side in India?
I think Bangalore, Delhi, these are the major markets. Then, of course, Pune and the other regions are also catching up. So, starting with the metros and then going to tier 2 cities.
Okay. Do you see larger applications? Your plan for the next 2 years are very important. You've got these e-commerce manufacturing companies. What are the plans in terms of applications for you?
So we're actually looking at a different product altogether, which we call the MaxiPod, which will be unveiled maybe next year. we're building a 4-wheeler. It's a modular platform.
Sub 1 ton.
Right, sub 1 ton skateboard platform. So that's something that's very unique. Today in the market, there is no skateboard platform available in India.
You want to explain skateboard platform for the benefit of the audience?
Yeah, so skateboard is basically a platform wherein all the electronics and the components of the vehicle lie under the skateboard. So it's a flat surface on top of which you can add either load or seats or whatever application that needs to be done. So what that allows is it allows you to sort of work around the space very easily.
So other companies are not doing the skateboard platform, or they
there are some companies globally who are in this space. Definitely, I mean this is still a very, very new concept.
Okay.
Because skateboard itself requires a lot of time and sort of technology to be put together and actually work well.
From an ICE perspective, it's like a chassis.
Right.
It's a ready chassis.
It's a
custom build.
Yeah, it's a ready chassis which is flat on the ground. That's why it's sort of like a skateboard. That's why it's called skateboard chassis, and that can be used for any application.
Is it like a monocoque?
Yes.
It is a monocoque then.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. And in terms of lightweighting itself, on the car that you're talking about, will it have the same standards of lightweighting?
Yes, in fact, even more, because when you go to a 4-wheeler, the weight becomes even more important.
Let me look at this. A sub 1 ton is 750 kgs.
Yeah.
Heavy vehicles. These are heavy vehicles, and their payload, obviously, and the performance, right?
Right.
So I'm sure this is going to be a lot lighter, but it has the same performance of a 750 kg vehicle, correct?
Right. Even better, in fact, because the lighter you are, the smaller battery pack and the smaller motor you need. So actually, you can design the vehicle very efficiently. And when it comes to range, it gives you more range when it's a lighter vehicle, and you get better performance as well.
Okay, you're doing all this. Good companies also are grounded in good research, because you've done your thesis in Germany.
Yeah.
And probably studying in Germany, you would have also realized the importance of patenting. Do you do that?
Yes, we've filed for 3 patents already, and we are continuously doing research in many areas, not just the ones that we're talking about, but just to understand what is possible in the market today, because there are many possibilities and we need to explore all sorts of areas. So we are, of course, filing patents as and when we go on. Yeah.
What do you want out of this game? As you're obviously it's great to see somebody from a legacy manufacturing to get into product now. Right? Where do you want to take this? Do you want to work like a typical startup, go pitch to VCs, private equity companies, or would it be a subsidiary of the larger business, and this becomes, as it grows, it becomes an independent business by itself?
So Zen has to be an independent business at the end of the day. It is, of course, we have the legacy, we have the systems in place from the parent company, but at the end of the day, it's a new company altogether, it's a new venture, it's a different concept altogether. So we need to take it through a different path. That path can, of course, go through that VC route or external funding. But yes, till today, it's been under the umbrella of the group. But in the future, we are looking towards external partners that we want to collaborate with.
And most of the talent that comes to work for you is engineering and mechanical engineering. What type of?
So typically mechanical engineering, electrical engineering. We need a lot of marketing people, business development, production. Very, very strong production is needed. So yes, expertise.
What's been the most difficult learning for the last 5 years that you've started this? What have you learned from it? Now you've corrected it, moved on.
I think the most important thing is to test the product as much as possible. And that is when you get feedback from customers, from the users of the vehicle, that is when you can sort of improve the vehicle to be able to sell it eventually. So I think taking time in testing and developing the vehicle, that is the most important. And that's where we've learned a lot in the last few years.
Okay. Your legacy business had an anchor customer, right? And that's how the automobile ecosystem grew. They were anchor customers. But in this industry, the anchors are yet to learn, right? Like we spoke about earlier.
Right.
Do you meet them also?
Yes, of course. We have to make sure that we have some, let's say, anchor customers, or to build the anchor customers for us. But we also know that the market is so huge that we can't really, or we don't need to rely on one. There are thousands of companies that need deliveries today.
Yes.
Not only e-commerce,
it's changed the game in a way. So
right.
So you can. So that basically means you're becoming the OEM and the anchor in many ways.
Yes, maybe. I mean, we are, let's say, the pioneers in this space, and any company like us that comes and emerges in this market can become.
But you can also partner with other OEMs when they do this, right? It's possible. Is it a possibility, or it's a long shot?
I think not easily possible because a lot of companies have different approaches to sort of solve problems, and we have a unique approach. Of course, if we find a partner tomorrow that has a similar approach and we have some synergies, then we of course looking forward to partnering with them. But
okay. Your typical day at the office. What do you do? I mean, I know you travel a lot. For business, of course. What's a typical strategy for you on a day-to-day operational basis?
I think very important to have the team with you the whole time. So in the morning we have a quick review meeting with everyone there.
Every day?
Every day.
What time do you start?
We start at about 9. So 9 to 11 could be that morning session with the whole team. You need to understand where is everyone at, what are the goals for today, what are the goals for this week, what are the goals for the month.
So it's design, development,
engineering, production, marketing, sales,
sourcing,
everything. Sourcing. Everything
so everybody sits with you 5 minutes?
No, everyone's involved. It's a round table, so everyone's together. It's a large meeting which we have. Then we go down to the specifics of, suppose there's some production challenges or some marketing sort of plans we have to make. So that's how the day goes about.
Would you consider yourself lucky in a way that the 2 years of freeze in the COVID time allowed you to experiment, and then now the market's open, is sourcing of some of the products like motors. I think the batteries are imported, right? Yes, right. So is that easier now?
I think a few years back the supply chain was very fragmented, and in India you could not find too many components. But today it has evolved a lot, and I think maybe could be because of COVID, but in any case the industry was emerging and really expanding. So now there are, I think, 80 to 90% of components aside from the battery pack are available in India. The cells of course come from abroad, but the battery packs are still made in India. So if you really go down to develop a new vehicle today, you can do it 100% made in India.
That's a good thing. Have you applied for the Made in India kind of thing? Are you recognized?
Yes, we are. In fact, we will apply for it, and we are already making in India. 100%.
How does that help in a sense? Do you talk at CIIs or FICCI, FICCI? Do you have to do a lot of industry because people there are older? Do you go there and talk about what you do?
Yes, definitely. In fact, places like Niti Aayog, we have been very actively involved with them, and that continues to be a very, very important part of.
Okay, are you aware of the logistics stack that everybody is talking about at the Niti Aayog?
The policies that are coming, for sure.
I hope there's an integrated approach to logistics, right? In a sense, where there's you spoke of the supply side. Right, from the supply side to the end customer side, they're trying to build one big solution. I hope that works out. Do you think that's a good way to go about it?
I think that could
be. The UPI, what they did for the UPI, they want to build a logistics stack.
Right. I think there is a need for this sort of common platform and sort of common system.
Where you can then build on it, integrate with it.
Exactly. And then these solutions can be integrated there. Yes.
So nice. I want to ask you about, you finish your review meetings at 11 o'clock or something, and after that, what, typical selling most of the time?
I think most of the time, maybe 50% time goes into technical discussions, because for us, it's everything about the product, and to improve the product, to basically work on the cost effectiveness of it. So that's where most of the time goes, and then some, let's say 20-30% time goes into marketing, branding.
Okay, and you finish your typical day at 6:37?
Yeah, about 7 to 8,
Or you get time for yourself in this?
In the evening, I do. I usually go for a workout. I go for a swim. So I've always been a swimmer. Swam for the state level in my school days, college days. So that was really what I was into.
Okay, that's a good thing. So you keep that going every day. That keeps you sane. I believe,
of course. That's very, very important to the routine. Yeah.
Now that you built this company, do you see a lot of these private equity guys coming and talking to you, VCs talking to you? Has that happened with you?
Yes, in fact, in the last let's say 1 year since the product has been in the market and people been getting a lot of feedback. A lot of funds have approached us, different kinds of funds with different goals in mind.
Yeah, because you have a strong anchor in the legacy business, and they see that as the advantage in coming and funding you, right?
Right. But that also, helps us because we know what kind of a partner we're looking for. At the end of the day, it's not just about the money; it's also about the value that a partner brings, and that synergy should really match. The goals should be similar. So I think that's what we're looking for.
Okay, do you get time to go to the legacy business?
Yes, some, of course, involved here and there in the strategic level, discussions.
Okay, between your dad, your brother, and you.
Yeah.
Do you talk about this business on a weekly basis?
On a daily basis.
On a daily basis.
Yeah.
So you are reviewed every day, or you review it every day?
I think it's more of a collaborative where we're all pitching in ideas.
What do you guys talk about?
New ideas. I mean, what can we do in the product? What can we do in the market? Where do we get the new customers? What to do about the government policies? So everything. Yeah.
So your dad's a science guy?
Yes. So we're all engineers. So that's our background. Yeah.
That helps, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of discussions and disagreements?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if you're not disagreeing with each other, then there are no new ideas.
Give me an example on what you guys disagreed upon and then agreed to disagree.
I think the approach, let's say, towards marketing a product or to launching the product, that's where we technically, of course, we have similar thoughts.
Oh, that's good. That helps.
Yeah. So building the product, I think we're all on the same page. But how to market it, what to do next, and how to take it to the next level is something that we talk about.
Okay, that's a great point. As engineers watching this, most of them think, how do you build we're great product builders. How do you market them?
Right.
Is that something that you are cognizant of always?
Right. Because in engineering, you're so technically sort of in that whole zone.
And if you have an anchor, you're sorted. If the anchor loves you, they'll buy products for you forever.
Exactly.
But when you're doing a product, it's a whole different deal, right?
Right. And you really have to educate customers. And what is very important in the EV industry is adoption. So people understanding the product and actually using. That's a very, very large gap in between to actually cover it. So the conversion.
If you're not doing Zen Mobility, what would you be doing?
Very difficult to say. Something in technology for sure.
Okay.
Building some kind of product. I think that's what.
Thinking about the future, you would have started up nevertheless.
Right. Definitely.
Okay. Some personal questions. You said you're a swimmer. You said you continue swimming. Is it still professional?
No, not professional. Not as good now, but I just try to keep fit, try to keep healthy. Yeah.
And what else do you do?
Workout generally. Then just socializing a bit whenever I get time.
Okay. What inspires you?
So I think anything that's sort of new that's coming up, which
technical papers
or books that entrepreneurship books.
Okay.
Those are things that I really enjoy.
Okay, and do you get time to read at all, or you get inspired by movies and other things?
I do get some time. I'm not a very avid reader, but I think on weekends, whenever I get time, I do read.
It's what newspapers and
magazines. Yes, every day, newspapers and keeping up to date with what's going on in the world.
Okay. You spoke about family. You spoke about your personal life in terms of swimming and all that. As this business grows, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go personally?
No, I think it's important to solve problems in the society and make sure that you're solving you're responsible when you're doing that. So from that point of view, your goal should be very clear. Personally, of course, to grow, to learn more as we go on, because today we're building Zen, tomorrow we could be building anything else.
Namit, you've given me the playbook to entrepreneurship. I'd love to have you back. We should talk more on the EV industry and create a platform of debates. So thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time. Thank you.
Thank you.